Good afternoon, evening, ladies and gentlemen. Going live. Apologies if sound and reception data is maybe not up to what it's supposed to be. I'm recording from an outside venue, not from my usual hideout, my foxhole. So yeah, I see a lot of people climbing on. So I think without further ado, let's discuss a few topics so that you are also then aware of those. And we need open discussion and fair discussion and sane and rational discussion about all these issues. First off, let's deal with the issue of Sibanye Gold and the Sibanye Group. As you know, I've been a part of a group of, call it interested people, trade unions, non-unionized workers mandating me for quite some time there. And we were mostly led in that campaign by the trade union AMCU. Now, AMCU, you will be known or you will be aware, is not traditionally seen as pretty much in favor of our people. And when I speak of our people, I'm speaking directly of white people. They are seen to be racist, more aligned maybe to the ideals of black nationalism, hardline 1960s, 1950s communism. So it came to me as quite a surprise when I sat down with them in Rustenburg, and I realized that to them, their values and what scares them and what infringes on their rights and their members' rights are basically the same as what we are experiencing as private citizens of this country. In the meantime, a lot of hard words has fallen between Sibanye and AMCU. A lot of good words has fallen amongst the two parties. Solidarity shone in its absence, not on the ground. The captains there tried their best. However, head office just seems to not be interested, or maybe has some kind of other alternative motive why. But Solidarity was never part and parcel of this. They tried to climb on later when they saw that there was success, as Solidarity usually do, by writing a few letters. I can say tonight without any reservation that Solidarity as a trade union did not play a role in the whole issue of Sibanye and vaccination at Sibanye. The main player, and it must be conceded wholeheartedly tonight, was the so-called black nationalist trade union called AMCU. Not even National Union of Mine Workers, NUM. They played an ancillary role. The big impetus came from AMCU. So the victory is one for AMCU, not for anybody else. As I say, I was also part of a group of people there. We formed a strategic operations group on which I'm still sitting. And many of the people there are non-unionized. They don't belong to a trade union. And that is why they came to me for assistance. What happened at Sibanye? They kicked the ball down the field, hoping that it will roll in their favor. It did not roll in their favor. And yesterday evening, their group CEO communicated in writing that after the Easter weekend, when the workers started returning then, they will make a final decision relating to this issue of mandatory vaccination. But everything, now he doesn't say that, but everything indicates to me that it will be called off. I cannot foresee the opposite. So relating to the biggest single private employer in South Africa, that being the Sibanye Group, and ancillary to that, literally hundreds of mining companies that support them, that give them service providers. We have indeed struck a tremendous blow against mandatory vaccination in the workplace. I want you to drink a glass of champagne tonight, if you can, just simply because that is indeed very, very good news. I just want to see a few of the comments. People quiet. Yes, Standard Bank. I'm going to speak a lot about Standard Bank this evening. Okay. Various other workplaces also indicated the last 2-3 months that they put their mandatory vaccination on ice. They were, again, still awaiting government to come and rescue them from their predicament. Government did, and it was embodied in the regulations by Minister Nexus, I can't even ever pronounce his name, Tulas. Initially it was made by, I think, like the media usually do things by a big fanfare, that now all of a sudden mandatory vaccination is applicable and is part and parcel of the South African workplace. That's not what the regulations are saying. The regulations are basically the old regulations, just sugar-coated a little bit, and my solutions, and I'm saying directly because I can see the hand in it, my solutions to problems that are being tried to be overcome. The new regulations by Minister Tulas are not what it is made out to be. It is not doom and gloom. It's not the end of the road for us. It's a sugarcoating of previous ones. There's a few very dangerous aspects in that, in those regulations. I'm not going to discuss them in detail, and there's a reason why. I've seen previously that when I speak on video on certain things that are of crucial importance, then all of a sudden the other side would jump and rectify their mistakes. I'm not going to do that again. I'm a nice citizen, but I'm nice to a certain point, and from there on I play dirty and I play hard. And as I said in previous videos about a month ago, the time for me for playing nice guy is just simply over. So yes, I'm not going to divulge what I have read and I see as troublesome in the legislation. I will keep it to myself, but be assured, we will act on it when applicable and when appropriate. The Solidarity Labour Court case. Now, guys, for months and months and months, clever people, very insightful people, very informed people, real experts of labour law, were sitting and planning and acting very strategically relating to how we tackle this issue and how we get the right case to Labour Court so that we can win a precedent. And here comes Solidarity, white horse, shining armour, and in a certain case at the transport company Ernest Loewe, Solidarity then goes and approaches the Labour Court on an urgent basis. They skip all the other preliminary issues and preliminary forums, i.e. the CCMA, and they make a total screw-up of what they were trying to do. Yes, the Labour Court says, we will grant you urgency, Mr. Solidarity. Now, that in itself should have raised 1 or 2 red lights, because usually the Labour Court, unless it's a strike situation, is not very inclined to give parties the opportunity to approach them on an urgent or even a semi-urgent basis. Be it as it may, the learned judge, in his wisdom, says, yes, I will listen to your case, Solidarity. And then Solidarity comes and make out the strangest, weirdest case I've seen in a very long time being made out in front of the Labour Court. It goes about all the classic problems that we were facing up to now, that being forced vaccination, forced on a person, forced on a worker. It seems to me this is a female employee. And then if she was not willing to comply with that, then she had to bring in the PCR testing every 48 hours, 70 hours, whatever. Same classic situation that we've dealt with from my group, my people, I don't know, thousands of times, and solved. But they bring that to the Constitutional Court, but they don't bring it ex lege. They bring it ex contactu. Now here's the difference. In law, there can be relations between persons. based on either what is decided amongst the two of them, contract, and then you call it ex contractu, or by law. And law would then tell X, you must do this, and B, you must do that, and then it's called ex lege. Now, everything that we are dealing with here today are ex lege. It comes out of law, it comes out of legislation, it comes out of regulation, it comes out of written constitution. So everything relating to mandatory vaccination in South Africa is ex lege. These numbnuts go to the Labour Court and they go and fight it ex contractu. They whip out the employment contract of the employee and they say, Your Worship, learned judge of the Labour Court, because in our client's contract, it is not written that she may be vaccinated. Therefore, it becomes illegal for the employer to do that. And the employer's clever advocate says, no, wait. You must remember that there's an Occupational Health and Safety Act. And there are regulations in terms of that Occupational Health and Safety Act, which puts a burden on us to do certain things, way and far beyond contracts with employees. And the court says, yes, that's indeed so, Mr. Solidarity. Your point is not going to stand. Then Solidarity goes and say, well, you still can't expect of this employee to pay for anything because why? It's not in her contract. And everybody is looking at Solidarity with dull eyes and thinking to themselves, what idiots are these? Because the issue of cost does not and will not reflect in the contract of employment. By the time that the employee signed off the contract, nobody knew or could foresee that there would be a COVID pandemic and the possibility of mandatory vaccination. And therefore, it will not be in the contract. What they should have done is to say to the Commissioner, Mr. Commissioner, in terms of this and this and this and this, law, BCA amongst others, Section 34, Employment Equity Act, Clause 15 of the regulations of COVID of last year, just to cite 3, and there's host more. In terms of law, our client cannot pay for the PCR testing. But they don't do that. They say, in terms of our contract, she can't pay. And the court literally laughs them off and shoots them into a bush and hit them with a cost order. Now, the saving grace out of this is the incompetency of Solidarity. Thank goodness, thank Providence, thank God that they did not fight this on law, that they did and they made the crucial error of trying to fight it on that specific contract, because that gives us a fighting chance on law. Law has not been determined or decided upon in the Labour Court or any other high court for that matter. However, it has started to flow through. By this afternoon, in 5 cases, 3 on Monday and 2 the rest of the week, 2 actually being this afternoon, commissioners as well as employers directly referred to the Solidarity case in the negative, to say, but look, it has been decided. Of course we can vaccinate mandatorily. And yes, of course we can ask employees to pay for their PCR test. It was decided upon. Not reading the whole judgment. Remember, a judgment is pretty much like the Bible. If you read parts of it, and you bring parts of it before law, you can literally inverse what is actually said in that court finding. Same as the Bible. You can quote verse after verse, right through the Bible, But by not putting the context or the rest of the Bible in front of the person listening, you can basically tell him anything from the Bible. Now, it works exactly like this in law. Lawyers are very clever. They are supposed to be clever. They are supposed to win cases. And therefore, they will go into court cases and they will go and take excerpts of those court cases. Paragraph here, paragraph there, that suits them and supports their case. And then they will come and cite it during arguments. So in 5 cases that I was involved in, this week alone, Solidariteit case bucketed it up for us. Okay? So be assured that although it's done, to my mind, incorrectly, the solidarity finding of Ernest Loewe before the Labour Court in South Africa is being used by employers, and commissioners hide behind it to not face the danger of running into a review that could reflect very badly on their name and their reputation. Leave that aside. Standard Bank. I used to ask Mediclinic, what the hell is going on at your workplace? Mediclinic eventually folded. They stopped. They effectively put their mandatory vaccination policy on ice. Lots of nice reasons they gave us. Most of them utter bullshit. We know they couldn't vaccinate their people to the extent they wanted to, and those unvaccinated were simply too expensive to retrench. We know those things. But nonetheless, they stopped what they were doing. But Standard Bank, I want to ask you tonight, what the hell are you busy with? Some of the worst human rights abuses that I've seen the past year relating to forced vaccination is taking place in Standard Bank. People are told, if you fail your exemption, which you will, and you do not get vaccinated, then in 3 days from now, there will be a disciplinary inquiry and you will be dismissed. I'm not kidding. I had at least, let me just quickly count 4 calls from Standard Bank employees today only, which said the same. Standard Bank, you are not above the law. You're not above the Constitution. You're not above ethics, morals. You cannot dismiss people just simply because they do not agree with a policy that has in the meantime become controversial in itself because of people like myself. Eric Stetzetter, in one of his articles recently, Daily Maverick, in one of their articles, very clearly indicating and pointing out to people that we have our doubts as to whether the response to COVID was ever correct. So even the naysayers, even the pro-vaxxers, are now coming forward and saying, oops, maybe we made a little screw up. Maybe Skulk and those guys, the conspiracy theorists, what we call them, maybe they were right. But the whole narrative in South Africa is changing and has changed. In Daily Maverick, and I posted that article on my Facebook, it's very clearly admitted that the wearing of masks has it doesn't even say little, has no effect in stopping the spread of a virus. Just one example. PCR testing is now regarded as to be so inaccurate that it's basically of no use. But still employers like Standard Bank just simply goes on and on and on as if it was 2 years back and they could hide behind, we don't know, there's a pandemic, thousands of people may die, which incidentally we now know was never the truth. they still want to do that. Standard Bank, I'm going to run an operation against you. Not because I think you're bad guys, just once again, because you are infringing on a massive scale on human rights, on the rights of your employees, who sometimes, I had one lady calling me today saying to me, Skulk, I have worked for them for 23 years. I've only worked for them. It's like I'm married to one man for 20 years plus. And she is married to her work when I started to ask about the hours of work and what she puts in. It's not your bad workers that you're getting rid of. It's actually your good workers that you're getting rid of. It's those workers that you could always and can always count on to hold the fort that you are getting rid of. As I asked certain other employees previously, and I'm going to ask it directly of you too, how stupid can your board of directors or the decision makers in your bank be to fire the most skilled and good workers that you have? How can you do that? Think of the inherent damage that you're doing to your own corporation by firing the best of the best. Don't see this as an exercise to get rid of the old guard, the old white guard. Because here's a surprise. Many of the people calling me from Standard Bank are not white, and they are not old. It's your black workers who do not want to vaccinate. It's your young black workers who do not want to vaccinate. Because they are seeing in the townships and they are seeing in the neighborhoods where they live how people die because 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, they went for a jab. Whether it's the jab killing them or just simply pure bad luck, only God will know. But I'm unfortunately not a person to play God. I don't like playing God because I am not God. Just want to quickly read something here. Yes, Niels Horak. His wife has been working there 27 years. 27 years. Standard Bank, listen to my video tonight. Go back to your boardroom over the weekend, maybe tomorrow, not tomorrow, Monday, next week. And go and rethink what you are actually doing. You're getting rid of your best employees and you're losing goodwill from the public. Those are the two most stupid things a businessman can do to his own business. Don't you agree? There's no face to be lost for you to also follow the path of saying, let us rather extend the period before we go full force mandatory vaccination on employees. Like most of the big corporates have done by now. There's no face to be lost. The Omicron variant, and now I hear there's some new variant, one that makes your stomach run. Thank goodness I don't have that one. But it's mild, and people do not go to hospital because of it, and they certainly don't die in thousands because of those variants. So use that. Simply say that because of this, and the tremendous herd immunity that has been built up in South Africa, and you will find that in those 2 articles I published, it's called out there specifically. It has now become unnecessary for us to go ahead with mandatory vaccination. We still encourage all our employees to vaccinate, but we're not going to force any people to do that. As to our clients, dear sir, you speak to our consultant, teller, whatever her or his designation is, from behind a closed counter in any event, behind very thick glass that's there to stop bank robbers from getting access to them. So you're safe. You're safe. By the way, I've always been a big proponent of the washing of the hands, although not 100 times, and being clean and neat. So yes, follow those rules. Ensure the safety of your workers and your clients, but please stop the human right abuse. We see what you are doing. It's coming out. We are not 6 months back. We are not a year back when people were too scared to whistle blow. Where the odd one out would call Skulk in the middle of the night to say, just please don't tell anybody else. But they are trying to do this to us. I don't find that anymore. People call me in the middle of the day from the workplace, sometimes from the landlines, to say to me, Skulk, waarmee is hierdie ouens nou besig? Kyk wat wil hulle nou maak. That is how ballsy people have become in workplaces. In Standard Bank, your people are calling out. They are calling a friend. Right? And that friend sometimes happens to be me. And you're either my friend or you're not my friend. And if you're not my friend, ask the guys out there who's not my friends. I will maul you. I will hurt you. Not physically, please. Don't go and make a criminal charge against me now. But business-wise, I will come after you if you do not want to listen. Okay? There's a last aspect I want to touch on, and those are the TULAS regulations. I alluded to it already. Those regulations were held up to be the saving grace or the holy grail now for employers. But weet julle, dis nie eers 'n pyn op die maag nie. Dis nie eers 'n poep nie. What I said in Afrikaans now is maybe a little ugly, so I'm not going to repeat it in English. Those regulations are basically the old ones sugar-coated, reworded a little bit, but it still does not have teeth. It still does not make mandatory vaccination law in South Africa. Okay? But, and here's the very scary but, embodied in the regulations, because it will be regulations, that's already been delegated to a minister by Parliament. You hear what I'm saying? It's not going to Parliament. Your petition is not going to help. There's not going to be a public participatory process here. It's been delegated to the minister himself already. And I'm speaking of the National Health Act. In the place of all these nonsensical little nincompoop regulations that we've seen is a monster. And I'm scared of that monster. When I become scared, I become skittish. When I become skittish, I usually go onto the attack. All living creatures have basically two instincts. One of flee and one of fight. And when I see something that scares me, I'm too stupid to flee. I fight. And I want you also to be too stupid to flee. Because embodied in the National Health Act regulations as they are now is the framework not only for COVID, for any other communicable disease, any other pandemic, any other virus or bacteria, whatever makes people sick in a certain big number, a framework through which government can control literally every single aspect of your life. Right down to what? You can drink alcohol, smoke, go into the street, go into buildings, go and buy bread. All the things that you remember from the bad old days, lockdown 1, are actually embodied into that legislation. But then it goes further. You'll remember the sanction of the old lockdown regulations was a simple slap on your wrist. And most prosecutors thought of it so little that they did not even want to put it onto the court rolls. Wake up. Those regulations are backed by some of the harshest criminal sanctions that you can imagine in a supposedly democratic and civilization or civilized society anywhere on earth. Yes, there are some of them that says you can go to prison for 10 years. I'm not going to delve into detail. We will do that at a later stage. But it's a hell of a scary piece of legislation because it grants tremendous and authoritative dictatorial powers into the hands of a government minister or wherever he delegates. It's a scary piece of shit, let me tell you that. How do we fight it? Because we will have to fight it. Remember what I say? Be too stupid to flee. You will have to fight. It's not going to be by filling in AfriForum's petition. They're using that for marketing purposes. En ek sê dit direk vir julle ouens, julle gebruik daai nommers om later mense te bel en stront aan hulle te verkoop. Okay? You as Mr. Citizen and Mrs. Citizen on the street, you will have to fight it in any legal way that you can. Writing letters, coming together, making groups, protesting, anything within the bounds of law that's available to you. You will have to oppose it. You will have to fight it. Because if these things are in place, you're going to sit in a dictatorial system in South Africa where the Minister of Health is going to be your boss. He's going to tell you what to do. Not even Kokta. Not even the very hated Mrs. Zuma in all her stupidity. You're going to sit with a medical dictatorship in South Africa in the name of the greater good and the name of fighting illness in South Africa. They will have this and that and the following very, very strong powers, and powers with bite. Powers that can actually send you to prison. Okay, so it must be a wake-up call for everybody. Petitions are not going to work. It's not going to help. For the first time in your life, you will now have to become a real activist. One really standing up for your rights. Because you will not get another chance. Remember the big thing that I was warning about? That big thing is about 3 months away. It is virus-based. It's going to make a lot of people very sick. By that time, these regulations and the framework of these regulations will be in place. And then it's not the thing of, I don't want to wear a mask. It's going to be what we experienced during COVID times 10 or times 100. And it's going to be backed by solid law with criminal sanctions attached to it. Long piece of legislation, about 150 pages. Some people purport it to be 1 or 2 pages, and they think they've now read the whole thing because they read it in business day. You haven't read it, because if you read it, you read all 150 pages and you actually understood what's written in that, you would have realized you're sitting right smack in the middle of a Stalinist, hear what I'm saying, Stalinist communist takeover of South Africa. Right smack in the middle of the damn thing. Okay, so become clued up. Go and read what is actually in those regulations. You can find it anywhere and everywhere on Google. I will post it tomorrow over the weekend so that you have it also on my Telegram. But you will have to seriously understand white, black, Indian, colored, brown, doesn't matter what you call yourself. In South Africa, you will be a citizen living in a dictatorial system. You will live in a dictatorship. A dictatorship being dictated not even from South Africa, but from New York and from the World Health Organization. Okay? That is the back door that they opened. Everybody was always speaking about New World Order. Oh, and I'm sitting with fatigues. I didn't even realize that how they would come with wars and enforce it through military might. Look, these guys are very clever. They wouldn't agitate you. How does Satan look like when Satan comes and takes over your life? Is he ugly and scary? Do you want to run away from him? Or does he impose himself on you as to be reasonable, soft, acting in your favor, in your interest? He does the second, because then you fall for him. Otherwise you fight him. And that's exactly how they took us over, how they won. And they won here and there. They haven't won the war. They're very far off from that. And thankfully, we're not dealing with the most clever of people sometimes. But they've certainly won certain battles. They did it by the soft way, killing with kindness. So don't expect war. Don't expect ugly and nasty things to happen. It's going to come softly, knocking on your door. Most probably in the guise of somebody very presentable and speaking to you in a very nice, soft little voice. Okay. Without further ado, I still have a lot of other work to do tonight. It was so nice speaking to you, my people, again. Yes, myself and Leonie have been away from Facebook specifically and social media more generally the last couple of weeks. We had a harrowing experience, and that experience just simply continued. It continued with crazy people running around, making our lives hell. We all know why. It is to distract us and to divert our efforts. And yes, they are successful to a certain extent, although the fight back has been tremendously successful. So expect a little bit more of us back here on social media in the future. Because we are duty bound to you. And we love you. We really sincerely love you. Julle is ons naaste. And that is why we are looking after you. A lot of criticism has come to me. Everything right down from where I stole people's money and I'm a fraudster and I lost count of all the allegations against me. Doesn't matter. There's thousands of people out there who knows me and who has seen firsthand what I do, how I intervene, how I stop employers by being nice to them, just simply indicating to them, sir, this is what the law says. Don't be angry at me. Be angry at the people who told you lies and made you put your business in risk. And we turn them in 5 minutes. Right? The impact on media, on public perception. And I'm not praising myself, but I can see what we achieved. I can see what we achieved by comparing us to certain other societies, where there were not skalk van der Merwes, and there were not so-called anti-vax activism. I can see what happened there versus what we achieved here. So yeah, you will see a lot more of us in the coming month. Our media platform is going to be live. It's going to come on stream during April. And thereafter, we will feature in your house, if you want us there, on a daily basis. Because I think we need to win the information war. That is where the big battleground is today. Who controls what we think? Is it mainstream media with their lies? Or is it alternative media with their conspiracy theories? Or is it our people, we amongst ourselves, figuring things out? And I want to be part of the third group. And I see it as my obligation, my duty, to lead in that third group. Okay. Enough said. Have a tremendous evening. Go and rest after a long week. And I will say hi tomorrow again. Signing off, Skalk van der Merwe.